Former Cayo North Area Representative Omar Figueroa has done the math, and by his calculations, things are not adding up at the Elections and Boundaries Department. He alleges that prior to the 2024 municipal elections, a significant number of voters of questionable origins began appearing on the voters list. As Figueroa and Mayor Earl Trapp were unable to independently verify the voters' addresses, they had given up on pursuing answers. Flash forward to July and August 2024, the period allotted for the transfer of electors from one constituency to the next, and Figueroa claims that the suspicious activity has returned.
We filed an objection for the first supplementary, but we weren't successful in court. We have since filed another one because the same thing is happening. We're seeing like 30, 40 names being placed, for example, on Stanton Street or on Benqueviejo Road or on Beetlejuice Street, and with no clear indication as to which house, and as we do our investigations, we start to find out, these people actually live in Socots, these people actually live in Benqueviejo town. We make our calls and we do our investigation, and we find out a bunch of them, significant numbers, live in Hattieville and in Lords Bank and in certain parts of Belize City.
In the most recent supplementary list, 273 voters registered to transfer to Cayo North. Through an investigation conducted by Figueroa and his team, he suspects that at least 100 of those voter registrations are fraudulent and is challenging them before the court.
We start by looking at the areas from where they're transferred, and immediately you start seeing. But what really raises some red flags is when you look at one house, for example, on Stanton Street, and you have 35 people there in the last 3 weeks of the transfer period. I mean, in the last 3 weeks of the transfer period, you have 28 people, I think, registering at Stanton Street. And then we have about, I think, 18 on Benqueviejo Road, and we're trying to decipher whether it's the same house because it's a corner house that's the focus of our investigation.
One of the major causes of concern was the lack of specificity in the addresses listed on the registration sheets. Addresses such as Bolton Area, Church Street, and Benqueviejo Road were listed with no house numbers.
The Election and Boundaries Office made it difficult for us to actually carry out our investigation because they have refused to give us the precise location of these residences. However, we had a small victory in court yesterday where the magistrate instructed the Election and Boundaries to actually provide copies of those investigation sheets. So that should help shed light on our investigations and help us to determine what it is that we're trying to determine. But we are confident that out of the 100 that we objected to, we are confident that the significant majority is actually fraudulent votes.
We reached out to Chief Elections Officer Josephine Tamai for a comment, but she was unable to offer a comment at this time. However, she explained that any registered elector can object to the name of any person published on the monthly supplementary list. The matter is then heard in open court by the magistrate. Based on the evidence provided in court, they will decide whether the name remains or is to be removed from the list. Objections are a part of the monthly process, allowed between the 15th and 25th of the month. Figueroa says that this is a very limited amount of time to conduct independent investigations on several hundred registrations, but they still thought it necessary to proceed with at least 100 cases.
And what's sad about this whole issue, what's really sad is the number of young voters that are being enticed to be a part of this fraud. We have about 10% out of the 100 that are first-time voters. I mean, it cannot be that we, at that early age, we will encourage these young people to go and be part of this kind of fraud, right? I'm glad that you're giving this some attention because it really needs a lot of attention. And hopefully, we're trying as much as we can to reach organizations like the OAS that come down and monitor elections, and we're reaching as many regional partners as well to try to shed some light and hopefully bring an end to this.
The case will resume in court on Friday. Britney Gordon for News 5.